Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid. But today is the 15th of July 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We will begin with the day 283 of the Palestine war that is going on, with the number of casualties that are increasing with every passing hour, every passing 15 to 20 minutes. One or more people are being killed by the brutalities of the Israelis. Currently, the latest figures are of 38,584 who've been killed and 88,881 who've been injured since war began on the 7th of October last year. There are so many casualties that are being heard of from different refugee camps, whether it be the Maghazi, the Burej, through Apache helicopters, despite the fact that there is a United Nations Security Council resolution that has been passed, despite the fact that there are talks that are on their last leg as far as some kind of a peace deal between the two warring factions is concerned, something that has been brokered by the US, a 3-phase ceasefire deal, despite the fact that there is immense pressure from different countries across the world on Israel to stop its atrocities, but the things go on. People keep on being killed, being butchered by the Israelis. This and more will be discussed in our first segment. Our second segment is the Pakistan-IMF deal and the KSE 100 that has opened at around 1% higher at 81,000 plus. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif also says that Pakistan needs to embark on a long and difficult journey to prevent knocking on the doors of the IMF again. Also, we know that the IMF has announced that Pakistan and it had reached a 3-year, $7 billion aid package deal. Then we are going to talk about the rising conflicts globally that have slowed childhood vaccination rate in the year 2023. This is a UN report that has recently been released that talks about different countries across the world that have been severely affected by conflicts. Finally, we are going to talk about World Youth Skills Day that are being observed today. The theme of this day is Youth Skills for Peace and Development, which underscores the crucial role young people play in peace building and conflict resolution. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the day 283 of the Palestine-Israel war. We've been joined by Naveed Aman Khan, senior analyst in the studios, and we'll be joined by Najmuddin Shaikh Saab, who is a former ambassador and a foreign affairs analyst. Thank you very much, Shaikh Saab. I can see that you are there. Let's begin with you, Naveed Aman Saab. I would like to begin, I mean, we have talked many a times before, Naveed Aman, and we have highlighted the atrocities, but the fact is that I have to start with this because every time, even if we talk about it, every single day the numbers change and the atrocities have increased. There's the latest attacks on Gaza, which Palestinians describe as horrific massacre. More than 90 Palestinians are killed, 300 injured on Saturday at Al-Masawi, an area that in Gaza that had been designated as safe. Whereas Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant praises the pilots who carried out these attacks and says that Palestine is being eroded every day with its ability to arm itself, organize or care for the wounded, then the children that are being killed, then the number of casualties. I mean, I can go on and on about the different areas where the casualties are happening, and I've also talked about the figures of those who've perished and those who've been injured. What do you foresee? Till when do you feel this is going to continue?
Omar, it is a big tragedy prevailing in Middle East. It's been over 9 months since Israel has been attacking Palestine and perishing thousands of the innocent Palestinians. The martyred number is over 38,000, and the injured are more than 88,000. And there are around 20 to 30,000 which are really missing, and nobody knows where they have gone, whether they are under the debris or where they have been perished or crushed. And the Israeli defense minister and the prime minister, they are praising their pilots and lauding them their performances, and they are saying that they are very happy on the performance of the aerial attacks on innocent Palestinians. Even then, those places which are declared the camps, relief camps or the safe camps or the refugee camps to have shelter for the Palestinians, or the UN officials or the journalists or the paramedical staff or the hospitals, temporary
I mean,
hospitals.
the list Naveed Saab goes on and on and on. I mean, we can talk just 1 hour on the casualties and all the different kinds of casualties that are happening since the 7th of October. Najmuddin, Shaikh Saab, thank you very much to be part of this show. Najmuddin Saab, I'd like to understand the role of UNRWA that has been criticized time and again by Israel, saying that it is housing Palestinian factions that are creating havoc, but nevertheless this has been proven to be nothing but lies. Now, an annual conference of the UNRWA was held at the United Nations, and the international consensus was taken to join the joint commitments initiative launched by Jordan, Kuwait and Slovenia in full cooperation with the state of Palestine. How important is the role, Najmuddin Shaikh Saab, of these countries that are hosting refugees like Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, as well as the very important role that the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has been playing and for not only restoration of the work that the UNRWA has been doing in Palestine, but also finding a sustainable solution not only for Palestine but also for the funding of those people who are in desperate need in Palestine?
Well, unfortunately, I think there is a certain misperception about the fact that the Americans keep talking about the fact that we are looking for a two-state solution, and that there must be a Palestinian state. But the fact of the matter is that on the ground, the situation is such that you can recognize that Israel and Israel's leaders, particularly Mr. Netanyahu, are intent on the fact that there will be no two-state solution, there will be a one-state solution, and there will be no Arabs in this one-state solution. They talk about the fact that there will be Israelis, but by my reckoning, what they are aiming for is that the settlements will enlarge in the West Bank, and the whole West Bank will become a part of what they call Eretz Israel. That is, that the entire area must belong to Israel. This is the promised land, and this promised land must be achieved. So I do not think that anything, perhaps the Americans are genuine in their effort to look for a two-state solution, but the Israeli lobby is so strong, and let me correct that and say that the Jewish lobby in America is so strong that neither President Trump, President-elect, or President Biden will be able to stand in the way, or along with the House or the Senate, in the creation of a situation where more and more settlements will be come about in the West Bank, and the entire West Bank will be what the Netanyahu and his colleagues will call Eretz Israel, the promised land that they have inherited. I think they take it back a little bit to the Balfour Declaration, but the fact of the matter is that this is something that they have been craving for a long time, and they are now being able to realize this in person themselves. It is unfortunate that at the moment we can think of Hamas, which represents only a small minority of the Palestinians, as the only sole voice against the Israeli aggression. It is unfortunate because I think President Abbas could have played a more constructive role, as could have the nations that you mentioned, including Egypt and Saudi Arabia, Qatar, but all of them are anxious now to try and establish a peace, which means that they will seek peace in that area. The street and
stay online with us, Najmuddin Shaikh Saab. We will also have Naveed, Aman with us in the studios. Naveed, Najmuddin Sheikh Saab alludes to promised land for the Israelis, but this promised land is in fact the land of the Palestinians that has been grabbed since the first Intifada, in fact a little bit before, by the Israelis. It continues to, they continue to occupy more and more land with every passing year. Now, last week a UN official confirmed that about 90% of Gaza's population has been displaced since the beginning of the war in October last year. The people are told to move to Rafah. When they move to Rafah, they are told to move back to Gaza. When they move to Gaza, they are again bombarded and killed and injured, and they don't know where to move. To every single place that they move, there is, after some time, a pressure for them to leave that area. Is the Israeli army trying to somehow ethnically cleanse the entire population of Gaza city by trying to force these hundreds of thousands of Palestinians to evict their cities and their homes? They've already evicted them, but they come back to them and they are again told to evict them. But what is the ultimate game plan?
Omar, it is true that the Palestinian authorities are willing to either cleanse the Palestinians from Gaza. Not only we are talking about Gaza, they are having plan of the entire Palestine. They are disturbing the entire Palestinian population from one end to the other. They move for the sake of their lives, but they don't find their life safe in Rafah or in Gaza or any other part of the country. And the entire world, the entire world's organizations, the world organization, all the world organizations and the political powers seems to be very weak and unsuccessful till today in the solution of, in finding the solution of this issue. The world powers like the UN will have to come up and intervene, assert its power. It's United Nations. I mean, it looks that the United Nations is nothing in front of US. So US, UK, France, the other European countries, yes, B5, or the even OIC or Arab League and African Union, European Union. There are many forums which are not performing as they should perform, or as they should go for the security of
Najmuddin Sheikh Saab, let's talk about peace deals. We have talked about or heard about so many negotiations for some kind of a truce since the last few months, but none has worked. Even the last United Nations Security Council resolution that was passed, or of course that was the US did not participate in it, but it was passed by a majority of the members of the Security Council, but nothing happened as a result of that. Now we hear of this three-phase peace deal that Joe Biden has been pushing since quite some time. There are a lot of apprehensions from the Israeli side. The Palestinian side has okayed it since the word go. But what is going to happen to this peace deal? Is this going to be just a continuation of what we've been hearing since the last few months, of some kind of truce happening which never happens?
No, to me, the plan that the Israelis have, and by the Israelis I mean Netanyahu and his colleagues, it is that all of the West Bank must become part of Eretz Israel, either through settlement enlargement or by buying out the Palestinians who remain, and suggesting that whichever Arabs remain, they should move into Jordan, particularly because that they believe is the area that was designated deliberately by the Balfour Declaration as the place to which the Palestinians would be moved as the Israelis expanded and included everything in what they call their Eretz Israel. So I think that right now what we are seeing is a culmination of a plan that has long been in the making and that is now reaching its successful conclusion. The very fact that the Egyptians and the Saudis and the Qataris are all talking about the fact that no, we must try and protect the Palestinians, I think remains just talk.
What happens to the Palestinians, to those who have been affected by the war, principally affected by the war and who have been wanting peace since so many weeks and months but haven't gotten it so far. Do you feel they will also be on the losing end even if this peace deal goes through?
Yes, unfortunately, as I said, as I see it, there will be some whose lands will be confiscated. There will be some whose land will be bought by Israeli settlers, and there will be others which will by legal rulings by the Israeli Supreme Court, become Israeli territory. So I think that right now what you are seeing is going to be the plan implementation of the plan that Israel has long had, or Israeli leaders have long had, namely a one-state solution, and that if the Arabs remain, either they remain as second-class citizens or they are moved into Egypt, Qatar, or particularly, I think that the preferred solution from their point of view is that Jordan was created particularly for this purpose, that Jordan will be the home of the Palestinians who are removed from the West Bank, and as Israeli settlements expand, and as Israeli settlements are either expanded by purchase or by expropriation. So I think that right now what we are seeing is something that is not going to be stopped.
Yes,
from here.
yes, Naveed.
In fact, this situation shows that if the Palestinians are forced to move to other neighboring countries, it will create, or it will enhance more pressure to the other neighboring countries like Syria, Lebanon, or Jordan, or even Egypt, or even then Saudi Arabia. So all of these countries will have to move forward and force Israel or America to stop this war, because it will really ruin those neighboring countries as well. And one thing which is very important, that from within Israel, the Israeli Jews, they are mounting pressure on Israeli government, in particular Netanyahu and Mr. Gallant, demanding that one thing is ceasefire. Number two is exchange of the captives from either side, and number three is they are demanding for immediate elections, because it is the time of elections.
But that will not happen, because Netanyahu is convicted, and if elections happen, that means that the courts will be able to move forward as far as Netanyahu is concerned, and he might be or could be put into jail. But you know, when Brazil's president condemns Israel's endless massacre, quote unquote, in Gaza, and several other countries join the Brazilian president, then Germany also says that lambasts this bombing of the school in Gaza, and the US Congressman Rashida Tlaib also responds to video footage of this strike and says it's sick how the government of Israel intentionally targets Palestinian civilians. Do such voices matter at the end of the day?
Even then, I will add about the voices. Our Prime Minister Shahbaz, he has been raising voice during his presence in Central Asia at the time of SCO, and visiting Tajikistan and the other places of Central Asia, other countries of Central Asia. Yes, these matter, but you know, the thing which will really matter is the response of US, where the response of US goes. Till date today, the response of US is in favor of Israel, and all what is going on in Palestine till today is all because of the US response and favor to Israel, which is really condemnable on every level, on every part of the world. It is condemnable.
Najmuddin, Sheikh Sahab, I'd like to understand the protests that have been going on across the world, whether it be by students, whether it be normal people, citizens of different countries, and even by Israelis happening within Israel for this barbarism to stop. Does it heed or put any kind of pressure on the current Israeli government, or is it just protest one day, the next day it's another chapter or something else that happens, so people forget it?
That I think I'd like to say that if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. But I don't see that happening. What I see happening is that Israel is going to be able to complete its its objective, is going to achieve its objective, which is to assimilate every part of the West Bank and to move the Arab Palestinians out into either Jordan or other countries. But I see Israel being able to complete its objective of making the promised land, all of the West Bank, and with the such Arabs as remain being there as second-class citizens, or much more likely that they will be moved into Jordan or Egypt or Saudi Arabia or other countries, but will not stay in the area that Israel wants to claim as its promised land.
All right, thank you very much, Najmuddin Sheikh Saab. Thank you very much to have joined us, and of course,
last thing which I would like to add, Israel categorically has said that Israel will continue attacking Lebanon, even then if they stop war against Palestine. It is a matter of danger for the entire neighboring countries. So they will become lame ducks. They need not to be to behave in a passive way. They will have to join hands to provide that survival, which is, in danger.
Naveed Saab, what about Syria, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Houthis? They both these factions are saying they will continue pressurizing the US and allied forces and Israeli forces until some kind of a deal is reached through as far as Palestine is concerned. But as we don't see any deal reaching, we see a lot of happenings as far as the Houthis and Hezbollah is concerned. Do you feel this also endangers the entire region in the long run if a proper deal does not go through as far as the Palestinians are concerned?
Definitely, you're true. And this is what I am saying, that Jordan, Palestine, Syria, Egypt, and Lebanon in particular, or the Houthis, they will have to join hands. They are making their individual efforts, but they will have to form a forum or join hands and form any collective, in a way to move or to enhance pressure on Israel, so that they could find peace for themselves, and they could avoid any aggression from Israel to the neighboring countries.
All right, thank you very much, Naveed Aman Khan Saab, to have joined us, to have talked to us as you have been doing with us since this war began around 9 months back. And the fact is that this for the moment sees no signs of abating, despite the fact that we are hearing a lot about the ceasefire deal that might happen. But we don't know what's going to happen even once this ceasefire deal is accepted by all the factions. Will the Palestinians be allowed to return to their homeland? Will the Palestinians be allowed to live safely? Will all the damage that has been done in the buildings, in the schools, in the hospitals be repaired by Israel, be repaired by the important Western countries? These are so many question marks that remain. Let's see what happens. But the first thing that needs to be done is some kind of a truce, some kind of a peace deal, and then the next things can come forward. Thank you very much, Naveed Aman Khan Saab, to have joined us. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns Pakistan-IMF deal. Now, on Saturday, IMF announced that Pakistan and the fund had reached a 3-year, $7 billion aid package deal. And of course, they said that it needed to be approved by the IMF's executive board, and it will enable Pakistan to cement macroeconomic stability and create conditions for stronger, more inclusive and resilient growth. It has had an effect on the KSE 100 index. We've seen that the KSE 100 index has shot and is above 81,000 mark. Even today at 12:40 p.m. It was at 81,412.37. That is a gain of 1,468.28 points, or 1.84%, with across the board buying activity. At the same time, our Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif Saab also on Saturday has said that Pakistan needs to embark on a long and difficult journey to prevent knocking on the doors of IMF again. He says if we want to get rid of loans, we need to consider this IMF program as the final one. Now, to discuss different modalities of the Pakistan IMF $7 billion deal, the statement by our Prime Minister, as well as what the eventualities of this deal are going to be, whether it is going to be the last IMF deal or not. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Muhammad Shaaf Najib, who is an economist. Thank you very much, Shaaf, to have joined us after quite a long time. And we'll also be joined by Shahbaz Rana, economic journalist online. We'll begin with Shaaf. Shaaf, IMF announces Pakistan, the fund, have reached a 3-year, 7 billion aid package deal, but of course it needs to be accepted or approved by the IMF's executive board, which I feel is going to happen. And they said it will enable Pakistan to cement macroeconomic stability and create conditions for a stronger, more inclusive and resilient growth. Will macroeconomic stability be cemented? Will the conditions be created for stronger, more inclusive and resilient growth as the statement talks about?
Well, thank you, Omar, for having me at your program again. Well, I think it's been a news that the entire country had been waiting for quite a while right now. And it's good that Pakistan has reached the staff level agreement, and it's just a matter of time that we will get the approval from the executive board. But I think what we need to realize is that we need to start considering IMF as just an emergency word. It's the lender of the last resort. When you have exhausted all other options and you have no other option, that's when you turn to.
We've gone to IMF 22 times.
Exactly. That is what I was actually coming to, that we have been to this lender of the last resort for 23 times, the emergency ward, and we have not been able to achieve that sustained macroeconomic stability, those structural changes, those reforms in our economy, in our country. And the blame for that does not go to the IMF, because what IMF does is it provides us with that breathing space within which we can actually perform those changes. And I think the question that whether we will achieve this macroeconomic stability, whether we will redirect our economic course, that lies now in our own hands, as it has always been. We need to, we got that breathing space now once for the next 37 months. That will be the overall tenure of this program. Now we need to ensure that we utilize this effectively. We haven't done that in the last 23 times. We need to do now. And for that, we need to start by looking at or evaluating what went wrong in those 23 programs, why we were not able to benefit in those 23 programs.
And out of those, only 2 programs, Shaaf, have really gone to their fruition. The last standby agreement and the one between 2013 and 2016. Out of all of these programs, we have only managed to finish 2.
Exactly. So the commitment that we make to the IMF, we have not been, you could say, standing true to that commitment. So it is not the fault of any single government, any single political party, but it is actually the fault that has been going on for the last 30-40 years, ever since we went to the IMF for the first time. So it is a recurring mistake that we continue to make, and this time if we actually want that we benefit from this extended fund facility, then we need to evaluate what we did wrong, and we need to utilize this time to bring about reforms in our economy and the structure of the country overall.
All right, Shahbaz Rana also joins us online. Shahbaz, thank you very much to have joined us. Wonderful to have you on my show. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif Saab on Saturday says that Pakistan needed to embark on a long and difficult journey to prevent the knocking on the doors of the IMF again. He says, and I quote, "Now is the time, it is our responsibility to act speedily and work tirelessly. Only then will this be the final IMF program in the country." What measures need to be taken, Shahbaz, in order for what the Prime Minister has said on Saturday to actually be achieved?
Well, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Omar, for having me on your show. It's really a pleasure. Having a desire for something is one thing, and actually doing something different is another thing, and which is quite important, and more than the desire to have a last IMF program. If you could recall, the Prime Minister, as the Prime Minister in the PDM government, had also said that the last standby arrangement program would be the last program of Pakistan. That did not happen, because at that time everyone knew that this SBA is just a bridge financing that would lead Pakistan to a longer term program, which is EFF, the Extended Fund Facility that Pakistan and the IMF have just agreed upon. Will it be a last program? Have we done enough to make sure that this is the last program? I think the initial signs are not that good. there are two parts of the story. The first part is the revenues, where the government has tried to do something. It has tried to bring the exporters in the normal tax regime, which has been done in the budget, which is quite good and which should be appreciated. At the same time, it has put more burden on the people who were already paying higher taxes, even more than the need, more than the law required them to pay. The other story, which is more important part of the story, of the complete picture, is the expenditure. Even if you raise rupees 13 trillion tax revenues in the new financial year on the back of additional taxes of about rupees 1.7, 1.8 trillion, where this money would go? Would this mean that Pakistan would borrow less compared to the last year? No, that is not going to happen. Why? The reason being that at one hand, the government has increased the tax revenues. It has set a very high target that requires 40% increase in tax collection. On the other hand, it has also increased the overall budget of the government by 30%. And even if you exclude the interest cost, which is the single largest head in the budget, the remaining non-interest expenses are about 24% higher. Will that serve Pakistan's purpose to call it a large program? I don't think so. Pakistani government has set aside probably one of the highest public sector development programs, despite there were concerns that the development spending has to be frozen because we don't have the fiscal space. What is the fun of spending on development by borrowing? That does not make any sense. So my point here is that, okay, the government has taken some initial steps. It has already done of bringing the exporters in a tax net. It has already promised that the agriculture sector, which is a provincial subject under the constitution, and the provincial governments have assured the IMF that they would start charging the normal income tax from the farm income. That is fine. Let's see whether it happens or not. But the major part of the story, just to concluding my remarks, is the expenditure side where no work has been done.
All right, Shahbaz, stay online with us. We continue our conversation on this very important topic. Shaaf, the KSE 100 index opens 1% higher, crosses the 81,000 mark. It has already done that a few days back as well. There's a lot of positive sentiment in the market. A, because of the budget that seems to be market friendly, and B, the agreement with the IMF. Is the IMF deal proving to be another shot in the arm as far as the Pakistan stock index is concerned?
Well, you see, first of all, we need to realize that the stock exchange is not an indicator of the economy, right? But what it does tell us is how the businesses are generally feeling about the future, right? It gives us perspective, it gives an idea of the perspective at how the business community sees the coming time, right? So of course, once the IMF deal has been approved, that will have a positive impact in the short term for the stock exchange, right? But I think more important than what we need to realize is more important than the daily movement of the stock exchange or maybe how many points it's gaining. What we need to see is how many new IPOs are being registered, how many new companies are being registered over there. That needs to be what criteria we need to see for long-term judgment of how our stock market is performing, because with new IPOs, new companies being registered, we are talking about new investments, we are talking about expansions of businesses, and that happens only when your economy is moving in direction of in a positive direction, where business friendly environment is being created, where businesses seem profitable in the future. So that's the parameter that we need to be looking at. And I think over the last many years, not just in recent, but even if we see maybe a decade or a couple of decades back, the number of IPOs or new companies being registered has been very limited. So that's something that we need to target for the stock exchange, because that will also help us give a very good idea of how the business community is seeing this, the entire economic situation in the country.
Whose responsibilities for the IPOs to increase?
Well, of course, it starts with how the government actually creates the environment, because once the businesses feel that yes, the economy is stable, that yes, doing business in this country is going to be profitable, that is when they register new companies, when new companies form, when people invest in existing businesses to expand so that they can carry out, let's say, more productions, more sales, more services. So it is all interlinked, but all starts from how business friendly the overall economic environment in the country is.
All right. Shahbaz, our Prime Minister says that putting extra taxes on taxpayers will like a premium for those who do not pay taxes, and it's a penalty for the honest taxpayers, quote unquote. He adds that the government needs to adopt new strategies and employ advanced technology that is used by tax authorities throughout the world. What needs to be done to broaden the tax base? We've been hearing that for such a long time, broadening the tax base. But what actually needs to be done so that broadening the tax base becomes implementable and effective?
Well, the budget of the new financial year is something which is quite opposite to what our Prime Minister has said a day before yesterday when he visited the FPR. There is a consensus across the government that this time again the burden has been put on the people who have already been paying their taxes, and this is primarily the salaried class of the country. The salaried class that paid over rupees 350 billion in the last financial year, compared to the exporters' payment of around 100 billion, and the retail payments. The retail sector paid income tax of hardly maybe 15 or 20 billion rupees. And again, the salaried class has been targeted. Now, what the Prime Minister is saying, that he is saying that we would broaden the base, and for that purpose, there would be less contact between the taxpayer and the taxman. And because one of the fear factors is that the taxmen, they harass the taxpayer. So for that, he has a solution, which is like there will be complete digitization of the Federal Board of Revenue, and there will be end-to-end digitization, meaning thereby that everything will be done by the technology. But this is the half story again. The chairman of the Federal Board of Revenue just said this 3 days ago in a meeting of the National Assembly Standing Committee on Finance, that the advisors or the consultants who have been hired for the FBI's digitization, they have asked for 2.5 years and for the complete digitization. And his statement was that the Prime Minister has instructed that the job should be done in at least 1.5 years, if not early. So what we are talking here is that we are into a 3-year program where the IMF has set targets which require the government of Pakistan to impose additional taxes every year equal to at least 1% of the GDP. With the first year, it is 1.3% of the GDP. So by the time this digitization exercise will be completed, even if it is completed, we will be very close to the end of the IMF program. And during this period, the same salaried class, the same class that includes industrialists as well, they are likely to be burdened more with the additional taxes. I think what the government immediately needs to do, and it still has time because there is always time to do something good, is that it needs to cut its expenditure. This is the part where we are missing. For the new financial year, the government will again borrow at least rupees 8.5 trillion, which is quite higher than even the last financial year. What you said in your intro and in your introductory remarks, whether this program will lead to stabilization, whether this program will lead to growth, or whether this program means that the stabilization has been cemented. Inherently, the IMF program are pro-stabilization and they are anti-growth. So what we are talking about during this 2.5 year or 3 years period, because this program is for 37 months from the date of approval by its board. We are talking about more taxes, and taxes from an economy which will be slowing, which has slowed down, although it partly recovered to 2.4% growth rate in the last financial year. That was primarily because of the growth in the agriculture sector. The sectors that contribute more taxes is the industrialist sector, and the industrialist sector is contracting. Why? Because we have one of the highest interest rates, because we have one of the highest energy costs in the country, and the IMF program and its policy, which is being followed by the government of Pakistan under the new EFF, would further slow down the growth. So the story overall is yes, we can have some kind of stability provided we complete the program, but this stability will be without economic growth, without creating more opportunities for the jobs, and the burden, because that has to be borne for the sake of the continuation of the IMF program, would be again on the same class of the people who have already been paying their taxes.
Thank you very much, Shahbaz, Rana, economic journalist, who have joined us, and I hope to hear from you and see you in the next couple of days and weeks as well as economy is concerned. Thank you very much to have joined us. Let's come to our last question. Shaaf, the Prime Minister says that now is a time for a paradigm shift. He says we need to tighten our belts and serve the public. For the first and last time, we need to act in the national interest. If there's any honest mistake, we'll rectify that. My first part of the question is, what kind of paradigm shift are we looking at? What kind of paradigm shift should we move towards? Then our finance minister says that this deal is going to aid Pakistan in achieving macroeconomic stabilities. He said we need to ensure structural reforms and bring self-sustainability in public finance, energy and state-owned institutions. What does it mean by that, and do you really feel that macroeconomic stability will come if we take the right measures? Two parts of this question, but I'd like short answers to the both of them.
So I think regarding the first one, I think the Prime Minister or maybe someone from the government can tell better what kind of paradigm shift that they see. But if you have to ask my opinion, I think what we need to do is we need to shift from the current permission-based economy to a more rule-based economy, where right now each and every activity needs you to get permissions and NOCs, which adds on to the cost of doing business. It adds on to the time of getting things done. So what needs to be done is we shift to a more rule-based approach, where rules are defined, where monitoring and evaluation of different activities is done, and if anyone defies those rules, then any action is taken against them, so that we do not take as much time in setting up businesses as it is done right now. So for instance, if you want to get the high-rise building constructed, right, you need to want to work on a project for that. It takes over 2 years to get all the necessary permissions for that, right? So let's say if we can save that, if not entire 2 years, let's say we can save 1.5 years for that. So that entire economic activity starts much earlier and shows much better impact, right? So that's one area that I would say that the government needs to do. Secondly, the focus needs to shift away from collecting revenues and maybe cutting down expenditures from very small portions to economic growth, right? So when we talk about economic growth, again it relates to allowing businesses to flourish, letting the economy work, and then once economic growth increases, that will automatically help us increase the revenues. So for instance, let's say right now we are earning 100 rupees and collecting 10 rupees in taxes. We can either continue earning 100 rupees and collect 20 rupees from that, or maybe allow that income to increase from 100 rupees to 20, and while having that same 10% of tax to GDP ratio, we'll automatically be collecting 20 rupees in taxes, right? And thirdly, there needs to be a change in the overall governance structure, which starts from reducing the size of the public sector, from the you could say the size of the cabinet, all down to how much business the government is conducting, and also civil service reform. We need to move away from a system currently where we are lavishing expenditures on perks, plots and other kinds of protocols for the bureaucracy. We need to monetize all those, and we need to bring them up so that we know exactly what kind of expenditure we are doing, and that will help us rationalize the expenditures.
All right. Yes, we are a bit short of time, but we'll have continued talking to. But Shaaf, we'll definitely going to get hold of you very soon, because economy is a subject that we are going to highlight and talk about in the next coming days and weeks as well. Muhammad Shaaf, Najib, thank you very much to have come all the way in the studios after a very long hiatus. Let's come to our last two stories very quickly. The first is about more children that are left out of critical vaccination drives for diseases such as diphtheria, tetanus, as well as whooping cough last year because of a rise in conflicts across the world, and this has hindered the supply of these life-saving shots, mostly in those regions that have been affected by these conflicts. About 14.5 million children have failed to get vaccinated in the year 2023, compared with 13.9 million a year earlier. These are estimates of the United Nations. This was lower than during the COVID-19 pandemic, when about 18 million children missed out on vaccinations. It talks about conflicts in different areas, whether it be in Palestine, Sudan, or in others. Finally, the World Youth Skills Day is being observed today. The theme this year is Youth Skills for Peace and Development, which underscores the crucial role of young people that they can play in peace building and conflict resolution. Our Prime Minister says the government is providing the youth with modern education, equal development opportunities and professional training to help them compete with the world. The role of the youth is going to be paramount in the next coming years, because we have a majority of the percentage in Pakistan that belong to the youth. Of course, the importance and the responsibility, whether it be the government or the private sector, becomes even more paramount to give the right resources to the youth of Pakistan. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you in Pakistan. Allah Hafiz.